Hi, my name is Jamie Rue, and today I'm going to talk about Empire of Storms by Sarah J. Maas. Okay, so excuse basically everything about this video, from my pronunciation of any of the names in this book, to any of the places, to the lighting, to the bookshelf, to just like everything. Just excuse everything about my life. Alright? The way I look, just like, I literally only got 20 minutes of sleep last night because I was up all night reading this. It looks small. It looks very small. Be warned, there are 689 pages in here. They used thinner paper, so it's like if you put two Bible pages and like kind of like held them together in your hand, it's about that thickness, and you think you're almost done with the book and you're not. Oh, I only have a little bit more left. No, you have a long way to go, my friend. Just anything you think you know about book length, just it flies out the window. I loved this book so much. This was my favorite book so far in the Throne of Glass series. Those of you that don't know what the Throne of Glass series is, where are you in your life? Brief summary of the first book, and just the first book. It is a book about a girl named Selena Sardothien, who is an assassin, and she is recruited into a competition, basically kind of like the Hunger Games, except for a spot to be the king hitman. There's magic involved and it's a lot of fun. That's the first book. If you don't know anything else about the series, I suggest you start there. Be prepared for a lot of twists and turns. Sarah J. Maas is really good at leading you towards one thing and then like completely veering towards another thing, and it's very refreshing in comparison to a lot of more predictable fantasy things that there are, especially in regards to romance. Those of you that have absolutely no idea what Throne of Glass is, leave now. This book is so great. Where we left off after Queen of Shadows. Funny story, I thought Queen of Shadows was the last book because I just didn't have much knowledge, and I was like, ooh, that's a weird place to end it, but then a friend of mine was like, you're an idiot, and I was like, oh, whoops. So anyway, this is the 5th book. The 6th book is coming out next year, presumably. I'm so in love with this book. So Sarah J. Maas's writing is always just so full of detail and imagery and just the best of fantasy YA that there is. Sarah J. Maas embodies just the heart and soul of YA fantasy. I don't think anyone does it better than she does. A Court of Mist and Fury, which I no longer have on my bookshelves because I packed them into a box because I'm currently in the middle of moving. That book was a gem. That was one of my all-time favorite books. It was so good, and I think honestly that this book is up there. Basically, again, excuse my name pronunciation. So basically, Aelin is traveling with Rowan and Aedion and Lysandra and Evangeline, and Dorian is off in his kingdom, and Kale, I don't know how to pronounce names, and her name starts with an N. I don't know any of the names in this book. They're headed down south so that he can, heal. That's where this starts, and that is not where it ends. Oh my god. This is classic Sarah J. Maas. There's a twist at like every single corner. I did not know that one book could have so many different twists in it, and I also didn't know that it could be that long. Honestly, there's so many things that happen. I don't even think I'm going to not even hit half of the plot points that I wanted to talk about while actually reading this. It was so much, but it couldn't have been split up any other way. It was such a satisfying read. I was crying for the last several chapters, cried in the middle of class reading this because I read from about 2:30 to 6:20, and then I read from about 7 to 8:30. But in any case, yeah, I cried in the middle of class. I can't even articulate the character development that happens, the amount of just turmoil and angst and things that happen to each and every one of the characters. Manon has become one of my favorite characters. I kind of used to be annoyed at her presence, but Manon has become one of my favorite characters. Lorcan is now one of my favorite characters. Of course, Aelin and Rowan, my baes, still just as cute and still just as amazing. To hit on that point for 2.5 seconds, in my review of A Court of Mist and Fury, I praised the book for being so open in its use of sexual situations, I guess I should say, because I was like, yeah, because we're not 2 years old, we can kind of handle this, it's not a big deal. Same goes here. There are several scenes that are fairly explicit. If you don't like that sort of thing, sorry. I still think it's worth a read. You can just kind of skip over it. It's not that big of a deal. If you like the Throne of Glass series, you don't need to be convinced to read this. So I'm just going to move on to the spoilery section. If you haven't read this book yet, you should probably leave. I have never cried so much at the end of a book. I don't know, actually. Yeah, no. I've never cried this much at the end of a book. I cried in the middle of A Court of Mist and Fury that much when the thing happens. The really cute thing. I cried a lot then, and the end of this, I was just in the middle of class, like legitimately tears are spilling down my face, and I am just all sorts of horrified and anxious, and I can't believe Aileen, how do I pronounce your name? I'm just so upset about everything, and of course, Maeve, I'm gonna say Maeve, because that's how I've been pronouncing her name in my head. I'm so angry. I've never been so angry at a fictional character. I was not this mad at the Queen of Luna in the Lunar Chronicles. I'm furious with this character. I have never, like, the whipping at the end where she, like, refused, and Manon is, like, standing there and not doing anything, and no one is helping her, and Rowan, when Rowan finds out that Aelin is gone, oh my god, everything about my heart, it like exploded into 5 million different pieces. Like, I literally can't about anything in that scene. Rowan broke me because they're married now. I'm gonna address this topic in a few minutes because it's one of the flaws of this novel, but I'll get there. Whatever, the one who travels with Lorcan. Legit don't know Elid. I'm gonna say Elid. At the end when Elid is like, Lorcan never touched me again, like that sort of like whole attitude, like that kills me because Lorcan obviously like cares so much. Lorcan has managed to make himself one of my favorite characters, even though he is so conflicting on every level because like obviously he's just such like a aggravating character and you're supposed to hate him, but then now I don't hate him and I feel really bad for him because like he's only ever really cared about Elid and now Elid's like, leave me alone. I called Manon and Dorian, okay? I was on that ship for the first time. They interacted. I have been there 100% from the beginning. I'm excited about this pairing. I don't know if I should be. I think it's a little bit strange, honestly. At first I was excited and I shifted a lot, and then I thought it was a little bit weird, and then now I still have some reservations, but I'm still like at least 95% on board. I'm so there. I'm so there. I will sink with this ship. I'm so here for it. And also like Idian and Lysandra, like everyone's just paired off really nicely and it's like really cute. I just don't know what to do. One of my favorite scenes in this whole book was just everything that happened with Captain Rolf. That was my absolute favorite. Just like everything about that was my favorite thing. From Aelin's entrance to the fight to that horrifying scene where Lysandra almost dies. I was in awe of that whole series of scenes that happened. I really wanted Kale, whatever. I wanted him to make an appearance somewhere. He was mentioned a couple times in this book. He was never seen. You do not see him anywhere. Manon has made herself one of my favorite characters. Just everything about her. I was so happy that Astrid didn't die, or Astrid, however you pronounce her name. I was just so happy that she wasn't dead. I don't really know how it happened, but the witches have managed to make themselves one of my favorite parts of this book now. Especially Manon. Manon's just like such a good character. Like, she is selfish to the core and like cares mostly about her own agenda because that's what she's taught that she's supposed to do, but then like throughout the novel you see her like give in to what has been established as like a kind of recurring character trait of hers where she's like softer than the other witches and she has some level of conscience. Manon and Lorcan are two of my favorite characters now. That part with the possession with Deanna, wow, oh my gosh, I was so horrified. Everything about that was horrifying. Like that whole battle scene with Captain Rolf and Lysandra getting injured and just everything was Eve came out of nowhere. Like, she was not mentioned at the beginning at all, and then suddenly she's just everywhere. And Errol was just like that was not resolved. Like, nothing really happened with that. Errol I felt like was mentioned in the first half of the book, and then kind of towards the second half of the book it dropped off and it was all about Maeve. It was Maeve this and Maeve that, and like of course they were mentioning Errol, but there was just something so like dissatisfying about not having a larger encounter with Erewhon, and I know that's like saving up for the big, like, grand finale type thing, but you're not wrapping up a plot point, is my problem with that. Same with Darrow, is like you're leaving like a bunch of loose strings, which you can do in a series in the 5th book at this point, but it's just not. I know, obviously, that it's going to be continued, but it's still, for me, quite a loose plot point. I don't know. There's something, it feels kind of wrong. Obviously, I know there's gonna be a 6th book, so I'm just gonna wait for that to be a thing. But oh my god, Maeve's still so scary. She reminds me of Amarantha, from the Court of Thorns and Roses. You know what, I'll address it now. Okay, so my biggest problem with this book, the reason that it is not like number 1 on my list of favorite books, is because a lot of it echoes A Court of Mist and Fury. Everything from the way that Maeve kind of like emulates herself, to the surprise we're married thing at the end, to the Rowan and Aelin are actually mates thing instead of this character and another person, to the reveal at the end of just like, oh, there's this whole plan in place that none of you knew about. And I forgot to mention, Aderlin's whore and Marantha's whore, you know, just a little bit similar, like a tiny bit, not a lot at all. It's a little different. It's twists on it, but it still remains that it's the same thing happening in a only slightly different world written by the same author. That was my biggest problem with this book. I didn't need Aelin and Rowan to be married immediately. I understand why it happened, so Rowan could be king of whatever. I read that they were married. The joy in my heart stopped being a thing for a minute. It just didn't need to be there, really, and it didn't have to be like a surprise. I don't know. I didn't know how to feel about it, and I think I'm kind of mad about it, is my consensus. I didn't need another Court of Mist and Fury. I got that. A lot of it is different, obviously, like almost all of it, but just those smaller parallels that I found there. I really think that this book's biggest flaw was the points that it borrowed from A Court of Mist and Fury. I didn't want or need Aelin and Rowan to be married, and it's weird because it happened in her last novel and it was revealed in the same weird, like, gotcha way at the end in both books, and it's revealed along with some scheme that had been planned up. Like, Aelin has this entire, like, thing happening. Feyre had planned that thing with Rhys. I don't know, just things like that. It just bothered me. Lysandra at the end when she's pretending to be Aelin. Wow, that's vaguely horrifying. It's like really creepy. The way Aedion keeps beating himself up over asking Aelin where their allies are and blah blah blah. God, that, like, the little moments like that are why Sarah J. Maas is one of my favorite authors. The fact that it keeps coming up, his guilt over that. Oh, the moments when Aelin thinks that she's going to have to marry someone other than Rowan. I was like, I hope not. God, I hope this isn't a problem. And it wasn't, which was both, you know, a good thing and a bad thing for reasons explained. Gavriel and Fenris, whatever his name is. I can't pronounce anything. Their camaraderie with Rowan is hilarious. I didn't know that I wanted more Fae characters, but then I read more Fae characters than I do. And also, that speech that Aedion gave to Gavriel, yo, wow, that was a lot. That was so much. I was gaping at my book. I loved the camaraderie between Manon and Aelin. That was one of my favorite parts of the novel, especially when they're like fighting over Elid and just when they started like making quips at each other but not trying to rip each other's throats out, and especially at the end where they're in the mirror together and Elena is telling her everything. And speaking of Elena, why? Why are you a person? I literally cried during the prologue. Like, I teared up at the prologue of this novel with the scene between Elena and Gavin, but Elena just, I couldn't. I was so irritated at everything. I've never been so mad. I've never been so horrified about Aelin's life. Like, everything. The fact that Aelin knew that she was going to die made me so I responded very, very viscerally to that announcement for lack of a better term. I don't want Aelin to die. I feel like the books that I've read thus far where the protagonists die have not been successful. So I would rather that just not be a thing. Hopefully it's not, but if it is, like, I guess I'll just have to deal with it. If Aelin were to die, I would want Rowan to go with her. I'm not into the whole alone for the rest of eternity type thing. It's not a thing for me. I don't want it to be a thing. Oh my god, and Maeve seemingly all-knowing, that horrified me too. Like, how did you know all of this? I'm so confused. I had forgotten that Maeve had, like, been around for so long. I don't know. A lot of feeling in a very compressed amount of time. It's just a lot. I like how throughout the book there's this, like, growing resentment towards Aelin from basically every side but Rowan's side, but even Rowan gets, like, a little annoyed with Aelin. Aelin has a problem. Aelin has a big problem. And her problem is that she does not share information with anyone or anything, and you're just kept in the dark, and she just, like, doesn't know how to play nice with others, and neither do I, to be fair. I'm, like, super bad at teamwork. I don't do teams. I'm not that person, but when there are entire nations depending on you, you might want to, like, share your giant-ass brilliant plan. You don't want to disappoint anyone, I get it, but it's still, like, everyone is hopeless. That's leaders, the main thing leaders do is give people hope. That's literally their job. My brain can't properly function, and I can't properly process what happened here. I think I can definitively say that I liked the beginning half of the novel better than I liked the ending half of the novel. I still really, really liked both. It's not like the first part was infinitely better than the second part. I just preferred the first part. I don't really know why, though, to be fair. I think it was the introduction of Maeve, probably, because the introduction of Maeve really, really made it feel Court of Thorns and Rosy, and I just didn't want that, and I didn't need that, because I was picturing Amarantha. I am not a big fan of Photoshop covers. I think anyone that has watched any of my other videos, like, kind of knows this, because I talk about covers in every single one of my videos, but there's something about the Throne of Glass series covers, maybe it's just that they're really, really badass, that I really like these covers, but what I really like about it is that it'll be someone in a really badass outfit, and then it's someone in a skirt type thing in the back. It's a cool. Do I want all covers to be like this? No, but it works for this particular high fantasy series. All in all, good book. I'm looking forward to the next book. I really want it, and I am sad that I have to wait a whole year to get the next book. Crying on the inside. Well, let's see how it goes. I hope that Sarah J. Maas does not continue in her, not trend, you can't call 2 books a trend. I hope that flaw does not carry over to the next book. I don't want to draw parallels between A Court of Thorns and Roses and Throne of Glass. I like keeping those 2 worlds separate because they are separate. And sure, they're both fairies and they're both about magic and blah blah, but they can still be different and be about the same thing. Not all wizard books are like Harry Potter, you know? And of course it's made different by the fact that this is the same author writing about fairies, but I still think that Sarah J. Maas is capable of creating different plots. So I'm hoping that this situation doesn't happen in the future. Again, sorry for my atrocious pronunciation of absolutely everything in this video. I tried. Alright, so I'm going to go take a long nap. Bye.